Welcome to the Whole Truth, Nothing But the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gerard, where we talk all things life, love, and everything in between. Go ahead and run that. Go on here. Thank you. Yeah, run that back one more. Run that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Now, if you are a new follower, subscriber, welcome to the Whole Truth, Nothing But the Truth podcast. And if you are a current follower or subscriber, welcome back. Now, last week's episode, we talked about the silent weights of mental health, where we talked about going to therapy. We talked about journaling and making sure that your mental health was in tip-top shape so that you were not ever caught in bad mental health. And today, I decided I would open up and talk to you guys about love, sex, and identity, and what it means to navigate through all of that as a Black gay man in your 40s. Child, listen, and single. Let me throw that out one more time. What that means to navigate through life as a Black gay man in your 40s who is single. Let's talk about it. So, now, one thing I can say is that being a Black gay man means that I have pretty much exceeded all the expectations that have been set before me as it pertains to how I am to carry myself and do these things. I have checked off the checklist. I know what to do. The only battlefield that I continue to lose in is the one of intimacy, the one of dating, the one of relationship. That seems to be the space where I just cannot seem to get this right. And I don't know if that's the right way to say it. I don't want to take all the blame. I'm just saying, I don't want to take all the blame, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the problem is. And I don't even want to use the word problem, but I'm not sure what's up. Yeah, I like that better. I'm not sure what's up. I like that. Now, when I grew up, now I can tell you about my messages like from when I grew up of masculinity and manhood and what they should be and what they should not be. You know what I mean? I got more lessons on manhood and masculinity from the realm of what should not be. And that helped me to frame what should be or what I thought should be, or what was the word I want to use here, what was acceptable, I guess, at the time, and so I learned to move accordingly within those realms of space that I was given. There was a form of policing that you grow up with, a form of policing yourself when you're giving those perimeters, because you don't know who you are and you are trying to find yourself, and it's all new. Every day is new as you grow up. You know what I mean? And so trying to find myself within those spaces was definitely a journey, even as it pertains to conversations about sex. Conversations about sex in my household were very far and few. We just didn't talk about those things. I don't know. It just was something that we knew existed. I knew existed, but there were no major sit downs to talk about it. The conversations were always more of, if you have questions, let me know. And I think that, the questions that I had maybe weren't, I felt appropriate, because I felt that I was maybe different, or maybe my questions or my feelings about life were different. And so asking certain questions for me, I don't think I ever asked them, because I knew what I had been taught or told or heard about life and sexuality, and what was deemed acceptable at the time. Even as it pertains to examples of love. I grew up in a single parent household with my mother. And so, I didn't grow up with, the mom and the dad and the this and the that. That's not my story necessarily. I grew up early years with my grandparents, and my mother. But, even that was a non-traditional, I don't know if you want to call it non-traditional, but it wasn't as common as I perceived it to be as a child, my home dynamic. Of course, as I grew older, I began to learn that, I wasn't the only person who grew up like that way, obviously. But, within that, though, there were no real examples of love and relationship. Baby, my mama was working. Let me tell you something. My mama was working. We wasn't a whole lot of rah, going around, so, we wasn't, I didn't see a lot of examples of that. There wasn't a lot of talk about those types of things. Not that we couldn't talk about those things, but there just weren't a lot of talks about those things. And I think that brought about a silence for me because I knew that I had different feelings or thoughts that weren't necessarily deemed as common as some of my peers at the time, and that of course brought about a shame, because I'm different, this is what I'm thinking about. People are making fun of or making light of or saying it's wrong. And, this is kind of where I am, you know what I mean? And so the cultural expectations of what I was supposed to be compared to what I felt were very much conflicting. And I think that it just kind of crippled me in a space because you're growing up. I'm an 80s baby, and so I grew up in the South, in a traditional Baptist household, Christian household. We weren't necessarily just Bible thumping, praise the Lord every day of our lives. We weren't necessarily that, but we weren't throwing pots and pans in the house either. You know what I'm saying? We went to church and we knew the word, and I heard the word from my family, you know what I mean? And going to church, and just at that time, the word was, no, 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 no. Little boys don't do this. Little boys don't do that. No, 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 no. So, growing up and being gay, I just learned the unspoken rules of what I was supposed to be and not be, and say and not say. I learned the unspoken rules of how I was supposed to show up. I learned the unspoken rules of how I was supposed to behave. And it shaped my adulthood. I don't know in a positive way or a negative way. I can't say which way it shaped it at this point in my life. It just shaped it. It's something that I carried with me majority of my life. And into a lot of my experiences, I would preface them with that, the things that I heard growing up, and what was not appropriate and what I should be doing and what I should not be doing. And I policed myself for a really, really long time. And so it really made my identity be something that it shouldn't have been, or could have been different, I should say, and so fast forward, now I'm in my 40s. Hey, 40. Ain't no, jingle or nothing about 40. What's the 40? It's not dirty 40, it's dirty 30. What's 40? Flirty 40? Is that what it is? No, I just made that up. I really just made that up. I'm sorry. I really just made that up. Flirty 40. No, it's not flirty 40. But I'm in my 40s. I'm veering. My apologies. I'm in my 40s. And what I can say now is that my perceptions on sex and love have completely changed, as I have now rid myself of the shame and the thoughts that, I'm not good enough, or this isn't good enough, or I don't have this or that, or the approvals that I never needed. Oh my God, the approvals that I never needed, that I thought I needed, but I never needed. It's given a different space to explore and live a more balanced life, opposed to I won't say a secret life, but a discreet life. And there's nothing wrong with discretion. I actually pride myself on my discretion because I don't like y'all in my business like that. But we're doing something new. We're doing something new. I didn't brought y'all in. I'm just saying, we're doing this. But it's even with sex, it's brought about a different space of being more open enough to know what you want, what you don't want, and not being ashamed of either. You know what I mean? And even with love, it's a space now of, again, knowing what you want, or maybe even more so knowing what you deserve. It's like when you're young, it's just a roll in the hay with somebody cute. Let's keep it a buck. You know what I mean? They cute. It's just, we're just doing what we're doing. Alexa, play straight fucking. I'm just saying. It starts in those spaces, and as you begin to evolve, your desires for more begin to get louder, and the things that you really want just become more prevalent to you than being masked by just the simple physicals. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to wake up next to no troll, but certain things are temporary. Looks can be temporary, but so what do we have outside these looks? You real cute and all, that's all nice and good, but what happens if you get depressed and stop going to the gym, and now you're not toned and the way you should be and everything. Now you're looking a little different, and so it's important to have something else to back that up. You know what I mean? Love. You know what I mean? I want to be able to spend my life with someone and we have more in common than just the physicals. Again, that's all well and good. I like to, I can appreciate a good looking individual, but I also can appreciate someone who can treat me right, and someone who isn't afraid to fight for life and fight for love and fight for the things that they want out of life. You know what I mean? And so learning that as I've gotten older has helped me to really navigate through the things that I don't want. You know what I mean? It's helped me to navigate through the relationships and kind of see the bullshit and realize, okay, this is not what I need. This isn't what I want. Or I did this before. Or, didn't I meet you before? You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean like you before, but just, this experience seems very familiar. Same script, different cast. Shout out to Whitney Houston and Deborah Cox. I'm just saying, that was a bop. Same script, different cast. I really want to sing it, but I'm chilling tonight. So I'm not gonna sing it, but it's a good one. I'm singing it in my head. I'm singing it in my head, and I'm gonna sing it later. But navigating through that now with relationships, it's been a lot better knowing what you want. You know what I mean? Because you are able to navigate through these relationships a lot easier, navigate through intimacy better because you have better communication and know what you want compared to just, how can I say this? Just letting him do his business. What Celia say? Celia say she just let him do his business. Do his business. That ain't, what? That ain't, who told you that? So, navigating through that while balancing identity, is been very much a fundamental thing now, to where it all culminates to the bigger picture of identity. It all culminates to that. everything that we had, everything that at this point in our lives, learning what we are and who we are and what we want and what we don't want, it all boils up to now identity, and you can move in a better space of knowing that. It's like the mix of pride and pressure that comes with being gay and black in midlife is a lot. It's a lot. I ain't gonna hold you. It's a lot. One thing about it is that, you continue to go through life, but there's a shame or a silence sometimes that you have to break through. And for me, it got to a point where I had to break through. I felt as though I wasn't living out loud. I felt as though I was just existing. I don't think I've ever been in a space where I have, as an adult, necessarily denied who I am. But there's spaces where I could have lived a lot louder. And I'm in a different space of living now where I want to live loud. I mean, this ain't no loud, proud, whatever. I'm just, that was inappropriate. I'm sorry. Because I am loud and proud, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to discredit that. I am very loud and proud. But this isn't the moment of that. This is just when you get to this space of clarity within your life as you've grown, you begin to just understand what you want and who you want and what you don't want, And so the things that have really helped me to get to this space, though, have really been therapy. It goes down, up in therapy. What? It goes down, up in therapy. It goes down, up in therapy. Yeah, it goes. JG, dropping on the beat. I feel like I could give you 16. Yes, I'm heat. Yeah, I'm going off the dome. Guess this is how I'm feeling. Nah, I'm going to change my mind right now because I need to get with it. Let me get back to topic. I was about to really go into some things, but I don't know. Maybe this isn't the show for that. But it goes down in therapy. Therapy really helped me to see myself a lot better, with more of a clear understanding of who I am and who I'm not, and others' perceptions and other people's projections that can deter you from the path that you're supposed to be on for yourself. And of course, all of my friends have been nothing but true blue to me with helping me to get to the other sides of things that I needed to get through the other sides of. I've gone through some breakups that have left me in self-reflection to really review if this was really a relationship. You know what I mean? You ever get out of a relationship or something, you realize like this really wasn't that. I put all my eggs in this basket and this was not worth it. This was a situationship. This wasn't a relationship. This was something else. And learning that, you deserve more than that. I'm worth more than that. I don't have to settle for that. Brought about a different space that just kind of forced me to unlearn behaviors and things that just weren't adding up to who I should be today. That's what it should be. You know what I mean? And so I really just want to take a second to just kind of encourage whomever out there who's living their life. And maybe you're not living as loud as you could be. Maybe you're still trying to figure things out for yourself. Or maybe you have figured things out for yourself, but you're just not living the life as you should, as you could, as you deserve. I want to encourage you to take stock and realize who you are. Realize you're the baddest around. It's only one you. I'm the one and definitely not the two. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not the one and I'm definitely not the two. That's how it goes. That's the thing. I was about to say something else, but it didn't come out right. I was real hype and I didn't lost it now. But but you have to remember who you are. And don't allow people to mistreat you, to minimize you, to pick you up when they want you and put you down. You deserve so much more than that. And it's important that you know that. And that comes with knowing who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you'll take whatever they give you. You know what I mean? And that's the part where it gets a lot. It becomes a lot for you. And one thing you don't want to do is continue to live a life of emptiness. Just sex. I'm just going to be a buck. Just sex. You can only have so much sex with people. And this is for my single people. This is for my single people. You can only do that for so long when knowing deep inside that you want something more. You want something that's going to touch you more than your physical. You want more than that. You deserve more than that. And one thing I can say is that identity is not the all end all be all. It is the foundation of connection. You know what I mean? It's the foundation of connection. And if I don't know who I am, how can I connect with you, and vice versa? You know what I mean? So you have to know who you are. And that's why the identity, it all comes together. It's very important for you to learn that, even through sex, even with your sex life, it all culminates together. It really does. And so one thing I can say is that love and sex gets real in your 40s. And the truth is, you have to show up fully in order to get what you truly deserve out of life and out of the relationships you deserve in your life. Thank you for your time today. This has been The Whole Truth, Nothing But the Truth podcast, where we talk life, love, and everything in between. Remember, you deserve happiness. Take it. It's yours for the keeping. And don't apologize for it. Until next time, have a great day. Bye.